This is an update video on the Stevenson brothers, the two brothers from Washington, D.C. that have been held on murder charges for 5 years in Ecuador. Follow along.
Hey, you watching, man? Right now, you're watching dcbornrob on YouTube.
Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. Thanks for watching. My name is Rob Christian, also known as dcbornrob, DC Rob. I answer to them all. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you ever get any benefit out of my videos, do me a favor, go down and hit the subscribe button, click the bell to be alerted of any new videos, and like. Like helps the YouTube algorithm. The more you hit like, the more people get to see these videos. For everybody who takes a second and go down and hit like, this is for you. Cool man said, you all right. That's right. Let's just jump into the story. Just to recap, I'm going to show the video that we did on Revolt TV a few months, just the first couple of minutes to give you a background as to what happened, and then give you an update on it before playing a radio program that we were on a couple of days ago. So let's just jump right in.
Welcome to Revolt Black News Weekly. I'm your host, Ebony K. Williams. Black beyond the borders, from James Baldwin in Paris to Maya Angelou in Ghana, Black Americans have long journeyed for a better life across the world. But when leaving the States, not all experiences abroad yield safe and secure treatment. In 2014, John Stevenson left America for his ecotourism dream in Palora, Ecuador. And as those plans became a reality, his older brother, Ronell, joined by his side. But within 3 years, an American dream for two brothers with booming success in a foreign land turned into an Ecuadorian nightmare. Their revolution to gain justice and freedom is tonight's prime story.
What I learned from this experience is being a Black man, the first question anyone asks me that's Ecuadorian is, where are you from? And I'll say, I'm American. And their response will be like, no, you must be Haitian. There's already a stigma being a Black man traveling.
From Ivy League to incarceration, John, with his brother Ronell at his side, spoke to us about what they say is a wrongful conviction and a 34-year sentence that started with a tainted arrest.
Around 4 or 5 in the morning, our door gets bust in. One set of gentlemen in ski masks with large guns yelling, everybody get on the floor, get on the floor, get on the floor. The prosecutor says, you know why I'm here, you know why I'm here. Tell me why I'm here. I said, I do not understand why you are here on my property. I haven't even seen a warrant. We see 50 or 60 indigenous Shuar that are from the Tawasip community roaming throughout our property, when we later come to find out that they were on the property since 3 in the morning, 2 hours prior to the police arriving to serve the warrant. One of the members of the Tawasip community comes and punches me in the face.
2 dead bodies were buried on the Stevenson's 125-acre property, which they believe members of the indigenous Shuar tribe nefariously planted. But why? The Stevenson brothers not only see their American nationalities as lawful impositions, but their Blackness as overall obstructions.
When we testify on the stand in front of the judges' own words is, what is 2 Black Americans doing here in Ecuador?
I think I've visited at least 6 or 7 indigenous communities. When they had festivals, they would invite us. It was a friendly atmosphere. When we would leave, certain people from the community would come back and say to us like, hey, people are leery of your presence. What is a young Black man doing here? How does he have the capability to own this type of property?
At the very beginning, the case was handed around to several different prosecutors. At the onset, that's a red flag to me.
Attorney Jason Poblet is president of Global Liberty Alliance, an organization committed to combating violations of fundamental rights throughout the world. He's helped Americans out of Iran and Cuba, and he feels what happened with rapper A$AP Rocky in the summer of 2019 needs to happen with the Stevenson brothers.
During the Trump administration, A$AP Rocky had been arrested in Sweden, and President Trump dispatched the special presidential envoy to Sweden. If we're going to do it for A$AP Rocky in Sweden, how can we not do it for John and Ronell, who are in Ecuador, in our own hemisphere, in a place that's a lot more dangerous.
But time is of the essence. First, because of a backlog court docket.
According to Ecuadorian counsel, we're supposed to be given some guidance from the court, at least a decision by the which level of government will take this over. And hopefully we'll have a favorable decision on the petition to revise the sentence, and then allow us to get in there and to argue all the technical issues that were not argued at trial.
Which they claim, if proved timely, DNA evidence would fully exonerate them. But more imminently of concern are the Stevenson brothers' safety in prison.
But last month, 100 people were killed in Ecuadorian prisons. 10 of those people were reportedly beheaded. They had a cellmate recently that had an AK-47, and the cops don't do anything.
While the prison system in this country is atrocious, the most important thing is that Americans are aware of our situation.
Okay, so there you go. That should give you a basic understanding as to what happened. Now, before I play the radio program we were on a few days ago, I want to just give you an update that I think since my last update, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, that Ronell Stevenson has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. The way it played out was they were in a horrible prison. And when I say a horrible prison, I've seen videos of the gang violence and basically a war that goes on inside there. And let me tell you something. I wish I didn't see those videos. I would never replay that, would never recommend anybody else seeing it. You can never get that out of your head. But what happened was he started feeling poorly. And for weeks, he kept reporting it. Hey, I feel bad. I need to see the doctor. And they would just give him a pill. Oh, yeah, parasites, take a pill. So he went through that for a few weeks, and then he started losing weight. And, so he finally needed more attention. It got so bad where, and I can't even say all the details what it took to get him out of prison, but he ended up getting out of prison and getting checked at a local hospital, of course, under guard. He's still arrested. And they found that he had an issue with his appendix. So they removed his appendix. And once they removed the appendix, they found that he had a growth. And turns out, of course, after doing a biopsy, they found out that he had stage 4 cancer. So he's been undergoing treatment for the past few months, quite a few months, 4 or 5 months at this point now, maybe. And now once he got in that hospital, Roja, his brother, was able to be transferred, and thank you to the Ecuadorian government for assisting the family with this, having him move to a less violent. While he's still in a prison and still in a bad prison, he's not where he was, where I'm telling you, I saw the videos. It was barbaric. It was awful. So he is in a better place. I have not spoken to him in a while. Please go back and look at my older videos. I'll make sure all the links are in the body of this video so that you can get an understanding as to from beginning to end and hear it from their voices as well, to hear from beginning to end what happened. So now Roja is in that hospital, in that prison, in a second prison, and Ronell is in a clinic ongoing cancer treatment. While he was there, maybe about a month or so ago, he got TB while he was in that clinic. Not only that, the family has to pay for his health care and his medication. Family bought medication, he lost his medication. And this is for cancer, remember. And not just that, he actually caught COVID while he was there too. So it was hairy for a few weeks. And from my understanding, he went from 185 pounds to 105. And you can imagine what 105 looks like on a man who's normally 185. So my prayers and good vibes are always sent to Ronell and Roja. Roja is also known as John Stevenson also. So if you hear the names, they're interchanged. But let me go ahead and play this audio from the Roach Brown show in Washington, D.C. a few days ago. Hopefully this goes out because we need the assistance of you, the viewers. I'm reaching out also to any YouTubers. The smaller, the better, really. If you're just starting out and you want to get your name out, I need to spread the word that the brothers, representatives, need to get on the ball and need to do their job. So I'm reaching out to a few of you guys already. I've reached out to who? Tay International, of course, Razor Rays, Carlton. I'm reaching out to Strill, most of the people that I'm closest to. I'm going to reach out to you guys first, and I'll reach out to some others. If you're aware of any others that want to join us on a live to bring awareness to their case, I would suggest if you're going for a walk soon, put your headphones in and just listen. or just turn up the volume, sit back and relax. Not much to see, but listen to this story. We need to spread awareness. We need help going after the brothers' representatives. Listen in.
Cole, the grapevine. I want to thank our guests for joining us. We have two other people on. We have a full panel. I guess our topic this morning is about the two brothers who have been locked up for murder in Ecuador, in Ecuador Prison. And folk, what we found out is a shame. I've been in prison, and I've heard about this prison in Ecuador. They just had a couple of riots, 15 or 20 people got killed. Some people got beheaded. This is one or two of the most dangerous prisons in Ecuador, and we got two of our homeboys from DMV locked up down there, and they're asking for our help. And before we start, I think I want to play the little opening that we got from them, from Roja, who's making an appeal to our listeners. Go ahead, Mike. You got it.
Hi, my name is Roach Brown Stevenson, and this is my brother Ronell Stevenson. The last 4 years of our life have been a complete nightmare. We are in an Ecuadorian prison, sentenced to 34 years, 8 months, for a murder of a dear friend that we did not commit. We beg you to please share this video. Without your help, we cannot come home. Please share this video.
This is part 2 of my interview with John and Ronell Stevenson.
Thank you. That's been a video interview that we got a copy of, and we played where they make an appeal, a plea for their freedom. Joining us is Mr. Jason Problet, the human rights attorney working on their case. Guest Robert, the father, Robert Stevenson, the father of the two brothers. And we have two other gentlemen, Brother Iman Mohammed, who is joining us, and other brother, I can't think of your name, brother. But we'll get it. Come on in. DJ Rob. DJ Rob. Well, how can I forget DJ Rob from D.C.? Man, you something else. Thank you all for joining us to shed some light on this situation. I'd like to start off with Mr. Jason Problet. Can you give us a little brief capsule, sir, of what the situation is that's affecting the two brothers, the Stevenson brothers in Ecuador, please?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. We got you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for having us. It's a real honor to be with you all today. And I'll be very brief because there's some amazing people here, including Mr. Stevenson, who has been living through this side by side with his sons. I mean, the bottom line is this. We shouldn't be having this radio show today. We should be doing other things. But unfortunately, two of our DC Metro's own, have been locked up in Ecuador for way too long. Our State Department here in Washington, D.C. could be doing something about it. And frankly, they're not. There's a lot of information about this case, but without a doubt, these men have been unjustly imprisoned for a crime they did not commit. And they're willing to stay there as long as it takes so they can exonerate and clear their names. And there's a lot of legal back and forth that's been going on right now. I mean, I'll just, in a quick nutshell, the Ecuadorian courts have more than one motion before them to revisit this case, and they haven't done it. And there's been plenty of lawyers, in fact, so many lawyers. When they first came to us with this case, it came to us through the great people at the Foley Foundation who work with Americans unjustly imprisoned around the world. And I was shocked when I saw this. It took me maybe 10 minutes of going through the proceedings to figure out that something was way off here. There was no due process of law here. This was has been a travesty of justice. And what's even more difficult to kind of comprehend, and I'm going to let the family speak deeper to the case, but I want folks to listen to this. American taxpayers, we have given money to Ecuador into the tune of millions and millions of dollars for decades down there to reform their legal system. Frankly, that money should have stayed here to reform the American legal system that needs a lot of reform, and our prison systems need a lot of reform. We've been giving these people money for decades. Some of it we had to do. And now we have two Americans unjustly imprisoned as part of a legal system we helped set up. So when I saw this case, Mr. Brown, we decided we wanted to help out. We reached out to Mr. Stevenson, we reached out to the family, and we're asking folks to please, everybody listening to this has a member of Congress, everybody listening to this can pick up the phone or an email. We need your help. justiceecuador.org. unlawfully.com is the website the brothers have set up. I urge you to go take a look at that. Everything you want to read about this case is there. And we hope that folks listening to this in Congress, this is my last point, including Senator Van Hollen, Senator Ben Cardin, who have been contacted repeatedly about this case. You know what you have to do to help. Please call Secretary of State Blinken. Please call President Biden. Invoke the Levinson law that was signed by President Trump before he left office, a law that requires that this case be treated as an unlawful detention and give it the attention it deserves, because it is not receiving the attention it deserves.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Pobet. We'd like to hear from Mr. Stevenson, the father of the two gentlemen who are locked up in Ecuador. Mr. Stevenson, are you there?
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me clearly?
Come on. Oh, we can hear you excellent. We like your accent too, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The attorney gave us a little caption. Can you give us, from your point of view, the situation about your two sons who are locked up and convicted and sentenced down in Ecuador?
Yeah. Okay.
What can you go ahead.
Okay. The process started back in 2012. My last son was in college, and one of his desires was for a summer internship program was to go to an eco-tourist farm. And so he started to do his shopping around and came up with 4 countries that he thought was appropriate. Thailand, Spain, Costa Rica, and Ecuador were 4 of the places that identified that had ecotourism farms.
What is ecotourism? What is ecotourism?
Ecotourism is whereby you set up a farm or a place whereby people can come, they can meditate, they can eat natural foods and fruits that are grown off the farm, and you can enjoy nature as its fullest without having to have any additives or anything that might not complicate your health. A lot of people use the farm also for meditation. Okay.
Okay, we got it.
Okay. This farm particularly lent itself to it because it was bought from a Canadian but owned it. He had a prayer tower on the farm that he used to do meditation. And he had 4 homes that was on the farm. The farm was about 130 acres. But what happened is John decided to check out the places. And out of the farms that he searched, Ecuador was the first one to respond. And so he opted to go to Ecuador to spend close to 2 months in his summer break to see what an ecotourism farm was. And the farm was run by 2 Australian women. And what they did is they allowed people to come and stay for free, but you had to work either 3 days or 4 days on the farm, and then you get 3 days off. You get meals and everything for free. Accommodation. So he did that, and then after that, he decided that this is something he wants to invest in, to set up an ecotourism farm. And part of that, his background was because of, as parents, we live in an agricultural preserved area in Montgomery County. He grew up knowing to plant and grow things. Neighbor down the street is a vet doctor, and he worked with him either on the vet clinic or on the farm. So I think initially when he started out to college, he was doing vet medicine, and then he switched to business after he got through part of the way. In any case, we decided he wanted to buy, if he could buy the farm, and if he could set up this ecotourism. And part of the reason that as parents went along with it is that he was a very good kid. He was a very smart kid, and I had put aside money for his college. But he got a scholarship to this university called Washington and Jefferson. And so I said to him, your college money will always be there for you to do what you want. And so that's what he did. He decided to use his money to invest in a farm, along with what, as parents, we helped him to do. So he went out there, set up the farm. And like everything else, initially he was just basically trying to turn the farm around, because going into the farm, nobody would have wanted a farm like that, because this guy was more naturalist than ecotourism. He had bushes and trees growing. He didn't believe in cutting down trees or clearing the driveways. It was just a mess. Anyhow,
let me cut in. We need to cut to the case because we got 4 other people here, and we got a big audience want to participate. What's going on right now, Mr. Stevenson?
Okay. Let me cut the shit quickly. So, back in 2017 March, they were arrested 2 weeks after myself and wife left the farm, because he had gotten a contract with Tabasco Sauce to plant 20,000 peppers. We left the farm. They came, arrested them, first for possession of guns, high-powered weapons, and drugs. Okay? After they were taken away from the farm, these indigenous people came and said they found some bodies hours after they were removed. And they were charged 6 days later or 7 days later for murder. Okay? For 2 people that they said was found on the farm. They went to trial. The gun case was dismissed. The drug case was dismissed. And so the murder case was left because there was no evidence of drugs and there was no evidence of guns. So that was dismissed. It was a pretext to get them be charged for something and removed from the farm. In any case, so doing.
Right in, Mr. Steve. Let me cut in a minute. You said that they came with a warrant to arrest them, and the initial charge was drugs and weapons.
Yes.
And they found weapons, and both cases was dismissed. So they came up with the murder. And the murder happened at 5 o'clock in the morning. They came with the police and the search warrant, and the indigenous people had shovels, and they dug up the ground. Did anybody identify them? They get any fingerprints off the weapon? Was any DNA, anything provided, any factual information that they acquired to prove that they did this murder?
No, absolutely
no witnesses,
not. Because no. Matter of fact, the guys were buried alive, so they died from asphyxiation.
Wow.
Okay. And this is one of the rituals that indigenous people do there when any one of their clans violate their customs. Okay. The other thing is, they were buried alive. So they were not shot. They were not stabbed. They were buried alive. So the other thing that makes the case stand out like a sore thumb, and that's why everybody's running. First of all, the prosecutor who brought the charge tried to get a warrant to go to the farm 3 prior times, and it was denied by the judge because there was no evidence about drugs or weapons. When the judge finally relented, they gave him the opportunity to execute the warrant in 12 hours. In so doing, he did it, and none of the local police wanted to be part of it because they knew the farm. My son had set up even a bar on the farm, a nightclub, that was really kicking off and doing well at the point. So the bottom line is, shortly after this whole process started, the prosecutor who instituted the charges went public, and then his superiors realized what was done was wrong. And so they fired him, and he's been debarred for life.
Okay? Oh, wow. Okay.
Second thing is...
Go ahead. We got 4 other people waiting to get on. Come on, Mr. Stevenson.
Yeah. The second thing is that they went to trial, and they did everything possible to withhold or withdraw the fact of whatever evidence or questioning that the defense attorneys used. They ignored it or they prevented it. So they never had an opportunity to present any kind of evidence, because the evidence was destroyed immediately after the police left the farm. The bodies were found after the police left the farm. It wasn't the police who found the bodies.
So the police didn't find the bodies. The indigenous people found the bodies, and they came and dug them up and went right to the spot. At 5 o'clock in the morning, they knew where to go and where to dig.
Yes.
I started a question earlier, sir. We got a law in the States that's called fruit of the poison tree. And the fruit of the poison tree means if the initial arrest was illegal, when they dismissed, they came in to lock him up for drugs and weapons. And when those 2 charges was dismissed, anything that was found after that is called fruit of the poison tree. I don't know what the law is in Ecuador, or
No.
or this principle applies down there, or they have that principle. Are you familiar with that? Maybe
I'm familiar with that. But you see, when you deal with a crooked system, they don't follow the laws. This case has nothing to do.
Welcome to America.
This is Jason. Mr. Robertson's being very generous. I mean, this is beyond crooked. What's happening in Ecuador is a complete travesty of, I think, any lawyer that thinks that's a legal system has something coming to him. It's really embarrassing what they've done down there. Really embarrassing.
Let's go
I wanted to add another factor that we haven't looked at. And I'm Imam Alfred Muhammad. I've gone to Congressman Gregory Meeks, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the House Foreign Relations Committee, and also the senator from New Jersey, Mendez. Now, one argument is the soil that was found in these young men and this decedent's body was soil from another area. So it wasn't even the soil from the farm.
Yeah.
So, in fact, just from a forensic point of view, it's a complete case of an error. Now, I am a city councilman in Linden, but I happen to be somewhat affiliated with some people who are part of the political party there in Ecuador. You know, by way of introduction, I've been around for about 50 years involved in advocacy of cases, including the Reuben Hurricane Carter's case. What happened is this case is a absolute railroading. But by all legal systems, whether it be the Napoleonic or the inquisitive system or the common law, a fruit of a poison tree is not permitted. The problem is this case argues for a political pressure case. I have called the congressman for these young men. One of them, Congressman Fumi, man, I knew very well. I used to work as a broadcaster in Baltimore at WEA when I was in Muslim Imam there. No response. No response. The Congressional Black Caucus, I'm hoping, please y'all forgive me for using bad English. I'm getting ready to go do a medical procedure. So if I pass, then this poor brother's just mentally ill. But I'm hoping that the Black Caucus is not a caucus. Because I've got no response from any of them. I called the congressperson, and they have done nothing. All this would take is a call to the State Department, and I've been talking to the State Department, to the Congress. All this
What is the State Department doing? Are they doing anything?
Absolutely nothing, but telling me such things as, well, we know the ambassador. She's a nice lady. That's a lady that has nothing to do with being nice. It has something to do with two people. And by the way, I got to add this.
Okay.
John is currently suffering from cancer that probably was caused by neglect. He's a 4th stage colon cancer patient who also contracted tuberculosis while he was in the hospital. I mean, this case is an emergency. You're talking about a young man that could be killed, could die, and we needed. I'm going to have to go because I'm in Mexico getting medical treatment in the United States. So I'm going to have to go in a minute. I'm urging us to write Congressman Meeks, to write the two Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and I'm urging this audience to let's organize a demonstration at the State Department.
Beautiful.
People will not respond to anything but political pressure. This case, I read this case. Someone asked me, they said, well, you know, Mom, why'd you pick up this case? I said, well, actually, it was dcbornrob. He's the cause of all of this. I was.
Okay, we lost him.
Son, I watched the case. This is criminal. So I asked 3 lawyers, two of whom were judges, to review the case with me. They reviewed it, and they said, I said, am I concluding wrong? Did I smoke any pot of? Did I do LSD? Because I said, if that's the only way I can conclude that this is anything but a travesty. But the biggest travesty is that the African American legal political community has ignored this case. President Biden should have been contacted and should have invoked the ransom law, and these young men should have been home. But I myself personally have been working on this case since May, calling and pressuring people. In fact, one congressman had the audacity to ask me. I'm a city councilman. I said, what a goddamn disrespect.
You're a city councilman in what state? What state are you a city councilman in?
In New Jersey, which Congressman Menendez is my senator.
Right.
And I know Greg Meeks I know Greg Meeks' father. So I've been around with these guys for a long time. And these people have just been nice. One time Greg Meeks called me up. I let me call Congressman Meeks, called me up at 2:00 in the morning, wanting Mr. Stevenson's number. And he pontificated for about 15 minutes till I got the right first name. Now, I'm 2:00 in the morning. I'm working on this case. What difference does it make? Just call him Mr. Stevenson. Later on, he called Mr. Stevenson. But what I'm saying, this is an obfuscation. It is not going to respond. I'm a politician, and I can tell you that politicians respond to nothing but pressure.
I want to thank you. So I know you say you have to go. I want to thank you for joining us. In fact, I'll be calling you because this is not the end of this. This is the first show we're doing on this, and we're going to stay on top of this. You want to go right now to DC Rob, who's been joining us. And the fact
Rob, let me just say this. He is the father of my troubles. I have decided to adopt this case as it's my own. And even though I'm receiving cancer treatment, I'm not going to leave it alone. So DC Born Rob Christian, you're known by many names. You are the cause of this. You brought me into this, and I must tell you, I'm not going to leave it. I took care to leave my body. I'm not going to leave this case. Thank you, DC Born Rob. Thank you.
And we got involved with this again because of DC Rob. We saw your piece on YouTube, both pieces, man. And I did 30 years on installment plan in prison, and I worked all that 30 years in the law library. So I know law a little bit. And what I read about this case, it turned my stomach, man. And when I asked the question about previously about the fruits of the poison tree, I know our laws are different from all around the country, but what I read in this particular case and heard from you, DC Rob, man, it turned my stomach. I didn't like the way it was going down. I didn't like the way them guy was treated. And one thing that stuck out to me is that they hired an Uber driver to be a translator for one of the brothers at the trial. And that is, that tells you right there. You got an assistant, a translator, as an Uber driver. He doesn't know the intricacies of the law. The whole case, man, smells of inequity, wrongdoing, all this kind of stuff. So we need to make sure that we get DC Rob in, who got us interested in this case. And I turn to you, Rob. Huh?
Say this before I go. And this case smacks of Latin America pure racism. This is a color issue. They don't like the fact that two black men have bought land in Ecuador. And this I got from some people who are close. Well, I won't say where they're close to, but I have sources in Ecuador. They didn't like that. So I'm going to leave it to DC Born Rob, since he's the father and mother of my involvement, and wish you all a very pleasant day. We're going to stay on the case. I'll be back in the United States on Friday. I'm ready to demonstrate the march. I got my marching shoes and ready to stand for justice. Bring the brothers home.
Thank you. Bring them home. Thank you. Thank you, your man Muhammad from New Jersey. Thank you. Now we go to DC Born Rob. Thank you, for taking this case up, man, and bringing it to our attention. What you want to share on this, Rob?
Well, my whole thing was, and I appreciate being here, Mr. Brown. Thank you so much for even entertaining this. It's been a challenge to get this story in front of certain people who can expand it even further. So much appreciation for this time right here. The whole thing was, I'm a YouTuber. I focus on Latin America, Central America, and Colombia and so on, which is right next to Ecuador. When the brothers reached out to me, they reached out a few times, and I said, okay, let me research. And then by the time I read the entire story and when I found out what happened, it blew my mind. These brothers should not be in this position at all. They have been let down by the U.S. side as well as the Ecuadorian side as well. But they should not have been arrested, first of all, and definitely not convicted. And really changed things for me is when I read the judge's decision. And if anybody wants to know what evidence there is, read the judge's decision. There is zero. Everything that you brought up, the fruit of the poison tree and so on, every law, every rule that we know and hold dear here in the U.S. has been broken in that case. So at this point, we need the brothers' representatives to stand up on their behalf, mention their name on the floor of the Senate and the House, do something. One statement I remember from the Imam is, if we don't move, they're not going to move. So we need to generate enough energy and focus our energies in the direction to getting the representatives' attention. I was just in D.C., maybe a month or so ago. While I was there, I looked up where the embassy was for Ecuador. I figured I lived there. Well, let me see. Wait a minute. They have a driveway. I don't even have to worry about parking space. So I pulled up and I went in. Believe it or not, they talked to me. They didn't ask me to leave at any point. They talked to me at length. And this is one thing, we can't get a representative on the phone. I'm unable to get a representative on the phone. But yet the Ecuadorian government from the executive branch spoke to me. So my whole thing right now is, we appreciate what you're doing and other people are doing that helping to get this story out. We're working at a point to save their lives.
Thank you. We got Nikisha. You want to join in? You got something you want to? Go ahead, Nikisha.
Yes, this is indeed a horrific case. And when I first heard about it, I was just absolutely and completely flabbergasted. And what Roach Brown is talking about, fruit of the poisonous tree, what we're really talking about is the results of an illegal search and seizure. And what the Imam was talking about in terms of the indigenous and their practices and the jealousies and all like that, it just seemed like an open and shut case to me in terms of putting something on these brothers who were trying to do something positive and knowing that it would not cause an uproar there in that particular country. So I'm really glad that Crossroads is opening up this casket. And the question I have is, my understanding is that these two brothers from Washington, D.C. received a sentence of over 30 years, and the conditions of confinement of which they are subjected to in Ecuador is absolutely abysmal. Can someone speak to what some of these conditions are that they are undergoing? And I know that one of the brothers, as the Imam or the father, I forgot which, was saying is suffering from some serious medical conditions as a result.
I mean, this is Jason again, briefly. I'm going to let Mr. Stevenson speak to the prison conditions. Let's just say it's horrible, and there's video that we can share privately with folks about some really horrible crimes, beheadings, beatings, deaths that you see in these places. But on the legal side, Mr. Roach is right. And I have pages and pages of due process violations. I'm not going to bother people with all of this right now. We can make it available to you. I just can't underscore enough. If President Trump can send the U.S. hostage envoy to Sweden, which is a democracy, to help ASAP Rocky, why hasn't President Biden sent somebody down to Ecuador to fix this? We shouldn't have to be doing radio shows about these sort of things. These families are suffering. These men are suffering. One's dying from cancer. The other one is not in a safe place. We can turn this around quickly. It's not a question of law anymore. It's a question of right. And we have to get on these policymakers to make this thing happen. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. We are talking about two Americans that are being punished because they're American, because they were successful, because they were good people working in a very difficult place. We got to bring these people home, and please, whatever you guys do, just get your message out to your policymakers. We got the laws to make it happen. America can do this. We just got to have the political will behind us to make it happen.
Okay, we have two people on the screen. I don't know who they are. You want to join us? There's a man and a woman at the bottom of the screen. Hello, are you there? Well, that might be a picture. Okay, Robert, what can be done? The question is, there's a thing in the federal government law called prisoner transfer treaty. I know we've been trying to get him out through the courts and trying to get my problems to the governor or whatever, but there's a thing called a prisoner transfer treaty where the United States has a treaty with most countries around the world where they can transfer prisoners from one country to another country, particularly when there's a situation like that Roja is facing in terms of he got stage 4 cancer, the other brother's sick, and they are in a dangerous prison. One question. Are they in the same prison or they've been separated?
Okay. All right. One correction. It's not John that has the cancer, it's Ronell. Okay. They both were in the same prison, but Ronell got so sick that he had to be taken out, and he's now diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And that's because they failed to take him out when he should have been taken out. Even though we had appealed to the embassy, and the embassy had assured us that they did everything and they will be taken out, it's when he was almost close to death. That's when he was taken out. So right now, as it is, he wears a bag. He's in a hospital. He has to be confined to the hospital because prison don't have the health capabilities to take care of him for that. While he was in there, he got the COVID and got TB. So he almost died twice. Okay? So,
wow.
That's big in Ecuador. And it is one of the best hospitals. The government of Ecuador was supposed to pay because he's a prisoner of Ecuador and is responsible. Myself and wife is paying for his hospital cost. Okay.
You were paying. Wait a minute. You were paying for him to be treated in a hospital in Ecuador, and yet he's a ward of the government of the state of the country. That cost was automatic shown to the state, and so now you as a parent, you got to pay for your son's medical treatment while he's convicted in prison. Now he's in a hospital.
Yes.
What's going on down there, man?
Yep, exactly. You know, so, but, you know, it's something to keep my son alive, and I figured, you know, I got to do what I have to do. You know,
are there any more blacks incarcerated where they are? Are they the only 2 blacks?
There were 3 other blacks that were in the same unit with them, but they were born Ecuadorians. Out of the 3, one of them was killed 2 weeks ago, which was they had adjacent rooms. He was killed. They cut off his head, his feet, and his hands. Okay. The guy that used to work out with them, another friend of them, Ecuadorian, they killed him and did the same thing. So they just barely missed it.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Povett. Does the State Department... Go ahead, Lakeisha.
Well, no, I have a question for Jason. I know he could talk about the many violations of due process and all like that, but someone mentioned something about ransom law, and I'm a lawyer, but I don't know too much about that. Can someone speak to that? And I know, Roach, you was mentioning State Department. I presume that has something to do with that, but is there some type of political pressure with respect to ransom that the U.S. can be doing?
Yeah, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, so there's a law in the books called the Robert Levinson Hostage Recovery and Hostage Taking Accountability Act. That's a brand new law. It's been around just for about 2 years. And that, frankly, we didn't need that law to do what these folks at State Department should be doing now, but now they're obligated to do something and they haven't done it. So the way that law works, and this is inside the Beltway stuff, but it helps kind of understand everything. State Department has different bureaus, right? Usually this type of a case when an American's locked up in a foreign country goes to a bureau called Consular Affairs. Those are the diplomats. They go to the prisons. By the way, Mr. Stevenson can tell you all sorts of stories about how our embassy never really showed up, not even at the trial. Like they may have gone once or twice at the very beginning of this, and then we can talk about that a little later. But what this law does is that it transfers the case from the consular office to this other office for the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs. And this person is the one who's in charge. It gives these cases more urgency. It's the case that I mentioned earlier about ASAP Rocky when they locked them up in Sweden over some case and they sent somebody over there. This should have happened in this case, and you could tell my voice. I know I get very excited about this, but this should have happened last year, a long time ago. It hasn't happened. The State Department can stop playing politics with this, move this over to this case, this office, and have the special presidential envoy, who, by the way, he was just down in Venezuela. He went down to Venezuela and he met with the dictator down there, Nicolas Maduro, and he was allowed to visit with 5 Americans who are unlawfully in prison in Venezuela. Why haven't they done it in this case? This is supposed to be a democracy, and it hasn't happened. It makes no sense whatsoever. The Congress people, and I got to say this again, Senator Van Hollen, Senator Cardin, you men are on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We have sent records to your office, documentation to your office. They're trying to help. They're just not moving fast enough. Now, some of them go off to Ukraine. All these politicians go off to Ukraine. We're all worried about Ukraine. Why can't we help 2 Americans locked up in Ecuador in a democracy in a case that's been mishandled by our government from the very beginning? Let's focus on the future. It hasn't happened, and it needs to happen today because one of the men's dying and the other one's in a very dangerous situation.
So this really hurts. It hurts in the sense that when I mentioned again about compassion release, they're releasing men all over the world because of COVID-19. And we got 2 men down, and this one has cancer, and it's stage 4, and he's in a serious situation. There has been no representation from the State Department at their trial, arraignment, conviction, or nothing. Or the State Department, I understand that Levinson law that was just recently passed. The State Department is supposed to go in and represent and be there to assist the U.S. citizens, and this is not happening in this case.
Mr. Roach, it's not only not happening, but Mr. Roach, sorry to interrupt you, but it's not only not happening. We've put this in front of them exactly the way you just said. This is a compassion release. These men are innocent. By the way, ask Mr. Stevenson. These men could have left a while ago, but the government wants them to take the fall for this thing, and these men refuse to have their name ruined this way. State Department, for some inexplicable reason, sir, refuses to act. In fact, one of these Americans needs medical care here in Maryland right now, and they still, since December, we've been in this back and forth with our government, and nobody gives this family a clear answer about why they haven't moved on this issue.
Have you been in touch with anybody in the White House? Because the State Department, it's obvious they dropped the ball, and I'm a little pissed because Brittany Griner cases.
Exactly.
Rita, the Marine Corps sergeant, who just was released a few days ago.
Trevor Reed.
Low-profile case. These 2 cases are high profile. These are just ordinary black brothers from Washington, D.C., who went down there to make a living. And I looked at the research and come to find out, why did they go to Ecuador? It's a cheap place to live. The cost of living is astronomically low. And they had built houses, had fish ponds. They were doing things in the community, and the jealousy or from the indigenous people or whatever played a part in this. And the racism it's shot through all out of this. In fact, I think you told me this, Mr. Stevenson, that they were called gringos by the indigenous people down there. So they are black gringos, and they're being dogged and mistreated. And that prison they in, you can go on the internet, and there are 12 to 15 people were killed in less than 2 weeks in that prison. One of them was being beheaded. They are in some dangerous times, and they're in the extra minority in Ecuador. We got to get our brothers out of there. Besides the State Department, besides the White House, what else can people do to put pressure on this? And I'm going to throw this back to D.C. Rob. What can we do? We got a microphone. We got a platform. Our show goes worldwide around the world. We can reach a lot of people with this story. What can people do who are listening to try to bring some relief to the 2 brothers, and especially one of them has cancer? They don't have, well, it's cancer, stage 4 cancer. What can we do?
I would say at this point, number one, just as Jason said, that the representatives need to stand up and we need to get vocal, whether we need to protest or not. I'm always up for that. I'm from D.C., obviously. But we need to get their attention where they're willing to reach back down and do something. Right now, I don't know what it is, if they're running from the claim or the charge of murder. And when you do hear that, you go, well, they've been convicted of murder, and they had a trial. And let me tell you something, it's a scam. There is no evidence. And when I say there's no evidence, I read it. There is zero. There is no evidence. I cannot say this loud enough. There is zero evidence. They should not be held, and the circumstances they were in were abominable. You spoke of the videos. I've seen the videos, and to be honest with you, I wish I hadn't seen them. I can never take that back. I'm 59 from Washington, D.C. I've seen a lot of stuff. The savagery of this of the videos, I wouldn't recommend anybody look at it. I mean, it will change your point of view on what humans can do to other humans. They should not have been in that position. And by God's blessing, they are both still alive after this time. So at this point, we need to carry the torch and get in front of the representatives. However we need to do it. If it's a protest, we need to get it done. And I'm obviously more than willing to do what I can from my end to support that.
Mr. Roach and DC Rob and Robert, I think that one of the things, as we've talked a lot about in the past, these men, and I've worked on cases of Americans locked up in Iran, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela. It's important to keep doing what we're doing here because they need the help. They need to know people haven't forgotten them. So that's number one. That's super, super important. Second, I believe these men are going through now an additional form of torture, psychological torture, other forms of torture. The Ecuadorian government's on notice that they are going to be held to account for what they're doing to these men because this should never have reached this point. Number three, they've robbed from these men. They've robbed them of their future. They've robbed them of their land. So raising awareness is such a big deal, and we have to keep doing it. The other thing, as Rob said, and as Imam Muhammad said, we have to, and I'm going to say it again, it sounds like a broken record. This can be fixed with a phone call right now from our Congress to President Biden to Secretary Blinken. This has been done before. As you said, I don't know who talked about this just now in the call. If this thing got up on CNN and Fox News tomorrow, I guarantee you the Ecuadorians will run back squirming over here saying, please make this stop. The people that we've contacted, I'm just going to give you a short list. And DC Rob, I think you shared the story about your meeting with the embassy also. So the ambassador to Ecuador in Washington, D.C. knows about it. She claims she wants to help. The Security Council supposedly is involved and wants to help, and we've contacted them. Several offices in the State Department, not just the Hostage Affairs Office, but the Latin America Bureau. The ambassador to our embassy in Ecuador has been contacted by personal friends of mine. The president of Ecuador has been contacted last year because of what's happening down there. The U.S. Foreign Relations Committee, the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and several leadership offices in Congress. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know how many more people we got to call, but this has to stop. And it has to stop now. And part of this process, this show, is to raise awareness. And if anybody listening to this can help, please call anybody on this call here because we need your help right now.
Go ahead, Nikita. You want to say something?
Yes. Is there a website that people can go to so that they can see the video? If they wish, they can have information about who to call and just have information on the case so that when they contact officials, they'll be saying the right thing. So is there a website or somewhere where folk can go for more information?
Yeah, there's our website. We sent you a link there, justiceecuador.com, and the brothers have put that together. It's an excellent resource. We can send you additional resources. We can even send you letters that you can send to Congress, very easy things you could just type, email, send in, pick up a phone. We'll give you a script. There's a lot we can do here. And DC Rob's YouTube channel, I think, is one of the best ones if you want to watch the shows. They're amazing. It'll give you a good background. The videos that we're talking about, though, they're way too graphic to put online, but I'd be happy to show them to you in private. Frankly, I wouldn't watch them again. They're very difficult to watch, but we can share them with people if they want to see them.
Thank you. Thank you. We got a Dakari on. Is that
He's on for the next hour.
Oh, okay. The next hour.
For the next show, yeah. Okay.
All right, beautiful. All right, let's go back to DC Rob Christian. Man, I want to thank you for pulling this piece of it together, but we need to keep the fire on this and keep it going because these are brothers and they're human beings, and we know how we treat it here in America. And I can imagine what they're going through down there when they've been called gringos, black N-word, and their health is in. I was blown away that these guys, college graduates, went down to Ecuador and started a border farm and started an ecotourism system. They're raising food, crops, tilapia, fish, and putting structures up and had a nightclub and a part of a community center for the folk down there. Yeah, and one of the brothers, the teacher we found out was Mr. Ecuador twice. Which one was that, Rob? He was a weightlifter or bodybuilder.
Roja. That's Roja.
So he was
Roja. It's Roja and John, same person, different name.
Okay. And what year was that? He was a bodybuilder and was elected Mr. Ecuador.
2015 and 2016.
So they were like celebrities there? They were kind of like known across the country?
Yep, they were, and they were even donated a trophy to the town. The first time that whole province was ever recognized in over 20 years, because nothing came out of that province before he put them on the map again.
Yeah.
But
okay, our time is running out. We normally open up the phones, but we didn't have time to open it up. Our time is at the end. I want to get, Nikita, you want to get some closing remarks before we say goodbye to our guests?
I just want to say thank you for bringing this incredible information. Frederick Douglass says that power concedes nothing without a demand. And I think that you have fired people up, fired the listeners of WPFW and Crossroads up to start demanding justice for these two brothers who are being held unjustly in Ecuador. So thank you so very much.
Mr. Stevens, we got a couple of minutes. You want to take a minute, Mr. Stevens, give us some closing remarks on how to reach you?
Yes. Okay. I could be reached by email, and my email is very simple: Roja John, R-O-J-A, John, J-O-H-N, King, at yahoo.com. My phone number is 301-648-0930. And again, whatever help in terms of putting pressure on the right folks to get them to understand, we are asking the U.S. government or Ecuador to do us a special favor. We're asking them to just follow the law and do the right thing. This is not about...
Thank you. Our time is up. I'll be back in touch with you, Rob, DC Rob. So we're going to we're going to follow up on this. This is not the end of this particular story. I want to thank our guests for joining us, Mr. Jason Poblet, human rights attorney, Robert Stevenson, the father of the two brothers, and Rob Christian. I want to thank you all, and of course, our distinguished co-host, Nikita. Thank you, and stay tuned for our next hour. This is our 2-hour show on the first Tuesday of the month, so we'll be coming to you in the next hour. Hang on for more Crossroads. This is Roach Brown and Mertine, and we love you, and remember, your inner voice is never wrong. Merry Christmas.
Join me on social media. I am DC Born Rob Official on Instagram. I am DC Born Rob Official 1 on TikTok. I am DC Born Rob O on Twitter. Don't be like this guy right here.
You're just so stupid. I had to send you a video to let you know that you're so stupid.
That's right. Don't be like this guy right here. Join me on social media.
We have a YouTube channel, like it. Please comment and share if you like the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.